Namaste. A very warm welcome to today's Yes Talk. The title today is Yoga Off the Mat. Our guest speaker today is Ms. Ruchi Arora Mohan, who is a passionate and dedicated holistic lifestyle and yoga instructor who has devoted her life to spreading the transformative power of yoga to her students. Her journey into the world of yoga began post her corporate career of 17 years when she sought relief from cervical and stress and was looking for an inner relief from a fast paced corporate job. Today, Ruchi is an ardent follower of holistic and healthy lifestyle, which includes diet, nature cure, habit formation, power of sleep, yoga philosophy of living, and emotional well being. Ruchi, ma'am, welcome. We are so glad to have you again with us today. Look forward to an interesting session with you. Thanks a lot for being with us today. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Arunima, and namaste and good evening to Bijlani sir and everyone who has joined in. Uh, I feel very honored and very privileged to get come here on the platform again and talk about something which is very close to my heart. And so, shall we start now? Yeah. Okay. All right. So, just uh, all of a sudden, at 5 o'clock, I realized that why is it that on the poster it is only my picture, sir's picture is not there? Is he not going to be is it not going to be something of the same format? And then I realized that no, this is a different format of a talk where it's going to be that I have to present my thoughts on this topic. And thereon, there was a bit of nervousness, but I just calmed myself down and I realized that all I need to do is just accumulate my thoughts and bring it before everyone. So here I am, and I've accumulated my scattered thoughts, and I'll try and present it to you in a small presentation that I've prepared for all of you. So just give me one moment. Before I begin the presentation, during the integral yoga course last year in December, one of the mentors and a friend over there, while she was taking an assessment of the during the practicals, she asked me a question that Ruchi, what makes yoga different from other forms of other things that we practice? And I gave a couple of answers. I said that it is we unite with the breath, we are more aware, and we challenge ourselves as much as per our capacities, and then we try and push ourselves very slowly into the process, whereas in the other forms we try and overdo these things, eventually harming our spirit and our body and abusing it. I came close to these answers, but her answer was the one which really moved me. Her answer was that in yoga, whatever form we practice, we are trying to unite with the divine. And that's exactly, knowingly or unknowingly, it gets infused in us when we practice it. And that exactly is what is yoga off the mat. So I would like to share my presentation. Is it visible? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
So, general perception of the practice of yoga is when I meet people, children, adults, uh, the general perception is that it's a slow practice which involves asanas, which involves postures. So, we go through a drill for postures and then we get into a posture and then we stay in the posture. So it's a slow practice which doesn't involve music, which doesn't involve any fun or any speed into it. Now, today I was at a school, and there was a teacher who had invited me to the school, and I asked her that she told me that I get very tired when I reach back to home and I have to meddle in between. So, she is unable to give due attention to her child who is in seventh grade right now. And she was like that I have to handle couple of assignments at the school, and once I reach back to the home, I am really done and dusted with my entire day. And that time I really need, at least 2 hours off for myself. So I asked her that, why don't you start practicing yoga some or the other time? Just begin with the practice. And she was like, do you think I can do it? And I said, why do you think that you cannot do it? She said, because I when I look at the pictures on the screen, I find difficult postures, and I don't think that my body can achieve those postures. So the another perception, common perception, is that it's all about postures, and that too reaching out or attaining those kind of postures which are not meant for everyone, but which might be difficult. There are bodies which are flexible bodies, there are bodies which are stiff bodies, and that comes from a lot of conditioning or lot of things that we have gone through in life, our genes, and so many parameters that we do not generally ponder upon. So I told her that yoga is not complicated. In fact, it is very simple. It is just about that you get started. And when you get started, you would not need a mat also to practice it. You would start practicing it anywhere, anytime when you want to practice it. The other perception that comes into picture is that it reduces stress. And that's where people think that it's something that's not meant for a 12-year-old or a 20-year-old, because that's not the age of stress. It would come after 40 years, or might be after 50 years, or when I am a senior citizen, because that's the time that stress is really high, because I'm old and body is turning old. So so that would be the time that I would like to handle my stresses. So that's another thing, that it is something that helps reduce stress. But when we are in 30s or 40s, life is all about speed. We should look at things which infuse dynamism in us, which infuse speed in us, so that we keep on proceeding towards our goal into the with complete full life and force. There is a very right perception that it's all about life balancing, and but somehow people think of it that it is simply when there is a need for it, we would get into it. But if you feel and you're not even aware that your life is many of the people, or many of us, we do not even understand or acknowledge that the life that we are leading or living is not balanced, then they think about yoga as health tips, where a lot of medicines would be recommended, or therapies would be recommended, health tips would be recommended. So it's all about health tips. And of course, one most common prevalent belief is that it's about breath awareness, where we unite ourselves with our breath, and whatever we do, we start observing our breath when we are on the mat. And so you hear the yoga instructor always saying that, come back to your breath, breathe in, breathe out, again and again. You try, and you come back, you are drawn back to your breath. So these are the general perceptions that as per my understanding, people have about the practice of yoga. So did I. And when I started practicing, I went there because of a disease. And I wanted to stay away from the pills. So I was guided to go to a yoga center where therapy yoga was also done. when I started practicing, I used to consider it as that this will help me. I was 20 years old at that time, 21 years old, and I felt that this is going to help me reduce weight also, because they are giving diet tips also. So it will be helpful in that ways also. I will not need to take any allopathic medicines or pills, and so it would be good if I am able to heal myself just like this. So no need to go here and there. This continued my practice continued with, sometimes it was up, sometimes it was down. Then different scenarios of different stages of life happened, marriage happened, then motherhood happened, and the practice was happening and it was getting disconnected in between. I remember it was the year 2014 when uh, I started taking a couple of courses with the same institute. Uh, at that time also, I did not even realize that the practice is, I used to consider this practice as a physical practice, that it will help me stay fit, because I don't like the gym because it's too closed. I enjoy running, but so if I have done running during the day, then I don't need to practice yoga, then I am done. And if I have done 1 hour of yoga practice, which means I am done for the day for my practice and I have taken care of my fitness. So the aspect of yoga was limited to fitness in nutshell, so if that is done, then this is not needed. If this is done, then that is not needed. That is how the mind used to operate at that time. I remember when I was switching from one company to another, I was given a big assignment which involved a lot of responsibility. And since it was like a media assignment and that too of sales with a huge team, so sales is all about numbers and a huge pressure on the head. And that too, when you have to, even when the numbers are not meeting up, you have to figure out answers, that how didn't you meet the numbers, what will you do with the numbers, and I was told that my team is not working, and I was feeded that my team is not working and they are betraying me. I'm giving them confidence and they are betraying me. But somehow that never happened. I always trusted. I did not know that what is the force behind this, that everyone in the organization is telling me that my team is betraying me, but I am trusting my team. I did not have that feeling that anyone will betray me. From there on, after a couple of years, when I would say until recently, I have realized this power which has kept on working in a very subtle way. So let us go ahead and I'll talk more about it. So in our life, we have different teachers. We have our gurus. Uh, I was living in a hostel when I shifted to Delhi. I lived here in hostels for 6 years, and luckily, I got my seniors used to be people who really used to take care of me. And there was one senior who told me that, Ruchi, that any good human beings, and if you are a good human being, you will get good human being only to connect with. So that thought just got etched in my heart, and I took upon it as something written in the in the Bible, or something written in the scriptures, that if he's saying this and he has said it with so much of affirmation, which means it works like that. So if I am good, I am going to get good people around. And I could see, the more I believed in it, the more I kept on getting more and more good people in life. And with the journey, that definition of good also changed. All right. So this is our teachers, our gurus. So I got my gurus in the form of my seniors who took care of me, who helped me grow in life. I These were the seniors who knew that wherever I am, I would be taking an hours off in between my day's job, and I will be going to the institute to practice. So they knew that she is really fond of yoga practice, and so if she wants to do that, let us allow her to take that 1 hour off. If she wants to study further and wants to take a leave for preparing for GMAT or something like that, let us allow her to take that. So these are the gurus that we encounter throughout our life, who guide us into the correct path of life. Sometimes they are not communicative sometimes, and these are the teachers with whom you don't have to you just they travel with you through different lives, and they keep guiding you. Then from gurus, then the other biggest teachers are our problems. So when we are stuck in a traffic jam, we have two options. Either we have an option to completely get disbalanced and radiate that disbalance in the environment, or we have an option to just go within and accept the problem and find a solution within, or just acknowledge the problem and let it flow by. So many such problems came in the form of diseases, came in the form of behavior, came in the form of different challenges. And I feel that these problems really teach us. Then our teachers are the books, the texts that are written. I was never a reader as a child, and never did I see my parents also, reading much of books. But we used to read the newspaper, which was a habit early in those days. Every household used to get a newspaper, and everyone in the family used to read it. But still, I would say that the practice of reading or the habit of reading books is something that I picked up when I was in a hostel, and I saw my roommate reading a lot. And I used to like her. I used to really admire her. And from there on, so she also became one of my gurus, when I saw her. So anyone from her, I picked on reading, and reading changed my life. So moving on to other gurus, it's our family from whom we draw certain patterns. We learn some things, many things come uh, from them by default into us, and we want to work on them, we want to develop on them. And then the biggest teacher is the inner self, which always keeps guiding us, which always keeps talking to us. It's just that when do we start listening to it? When do we start acknowledging it? And when do we start paying attention to it? These teachers were always around. But with the practice of yoga, I could see them much more clearly, and I could acknowledge them much more clearly. Earlier, they came, they went, but the practice gave me an inner sense that it so much so became that if someone is giving a book to me, I I used to start feeling that I think this is the need of the hour for me. That is why this book has come to me. I think this is what. So recently, I am a part of a community, which is a reading community, and there we have challenges. So we circulate books amongst each other, and we have a challenge that we have to complete a book in a certain period of time. So a book came. The book name is Manifest, and it came, and I could not read it. And once the challenge got finished, I requested if I can get a copy once again. This habit of giving the copies again is never done, but this time the book was given. When it came back, I felt that I think this is something that I really need for myself, and that's why it has been granted to me once again. And then I read the book. So these teachers are always around. It is just that when we start mixing or implanting our belief into it, then we acknowledge these teachers much more powerfully, and we respect them all the way more. So, as we all know that there are four types of yoga practices. There is karma yoga, which is done through a lot of actions. Like, for example, Mother Teresa's work. There are people who unconditionally, there are activists who unconditionally devote themselves to the country, freedom fighters, and other beings who practice their yoga through actions. So this is through actions that we are trying to attain the divine, or we are trying to unite with the divine. So many, yoga teacher training programs, they require uh, the candidates to practice all these things. So I remember one of my gurus used to tell me that if you are a yogi, or if you are a true yogi, you will learn all the 64 kalas that have been provided in our religion, that have been provided in our culture. So if you you don't have to be onto one particular task. You don't have to identify yourself as just being a dancer or just being a singer. You can be everything, and all you have to do is you should pick up and explore each and every kala and learn each and every, be it music, be it dance, be it drawing, and try and explore the different things that have been provided to us, and be one with it and enjoy each one of it. Then there is the Bhakti Yoga, which cultivates the expression and the love for divine through devotional rituals. And as we have heard Sir speaking, Prashant Sir speaking, that Bhakti Yoga is one practice through which uh, we are allowed to reach, or the divine gives us an extra aid, an extra support to unite. So in other forms we have to work more, but in Bhakti Yoga the divine works much more than us, because he really wants to unite with us. So he this is like the shortest way to the divine. And uh, quoting this, when I was a child, I always used to hear my grandmother. She used to wake up by 4 a.m. every morning without any alarms. And early in the morning, she used to play Gurbani. At that point of time, I used to really complain that why don't you let us sleep and you put this music on which we don't understand, that too at such a volume. So why do you do that? But she did not, stop that, and she kept on doing that. Years later, I had this urge that I also really want to wake up and I want to see what happens at 4 a.m. And somewhere the music that she used to play, the Gurbani that she used to play, that was sowing the seeds of spirituality, that was sowing the seeds of bhakti or of kirtan in me, which I did not realize at that time. It is with time that wisdom came, that despite not being able to understand the literal meaning of those words, but carrying of those vibrations or listening to those vibrations and reverberating those vibrations and letting it seep inside you, that is something that I realized much later on. uh, as I talked about Bhakti Yoga, I remember when we were children talking about Karma Yoga. uh, we used to have a temple near our place in Kanpur, and me and my elder cousin sister, so we used to go to the temple on the weekends and we used to clean the temple. We used to sweep off the floors and clean the temple. Uh, at that time, it was called that it's a very good thing, so we should do it. I was like, okay, it's a good thing. Let us do it. We are cleaning off the temple. There is no shame. There is nothing wrong with it. Let us do it. And I think that was one thing uh, that removed that particular taboo, or that particular thing, that if you will do something like this, then you are doing something which you are not supposed to do. but rather it it infused that feeling within that any work and every work is just one. It is all equal. There is nothing that I should be doing, or there is something that someone else should be doing. We all should be capable of doing anything and everything that comes on the way. So when this used to happen, again, I used to look at the sweeping of the temple in a way that I am going to do squats over there. It's really going to help me, to give me that physical practice. So 1 hour of practice done, 1 hour of exercise done, and I am sorted. At that point of time, the outlook was completely this. But today, when I see reverberating or reflecting in my life, I feel that those incidents were nothing but seeds of a very of a long term. It was a long term process that got started, which I can sense a bit now. I'm still nowhere in the journey, but I think I have started sensing it a bit. Then is the Gyan Yoga, which is all about intellect and wisdom, and it's about what we have studied so much in integral yoga, that the philosophies and the texts and different books, the different texts from which we learn so much, and we can implement these things into our life. And then is the Raj Yoga, which is through personal, which is like which integrates the 8 limbs of yoga, and also it combines the different forms of yoga together. Now, coming to that, what does yoga remind us? So when we are into a session, when we are into the practice, we always hear this out, that focus on your breath, come back to your breath. Again and again, again and again, it unites us with our breath. Then we often hear that, just be in your space and allow that space to yourself. Grow as much as you want to and grow as much as you can. Do not respect your limits. Be compassionate to self. Do not push yourself too hard. That infuses self compassion, that we need not be harsh towards ourselves. We need not abuse our senses, and respect our limits and grow bit by bit. Earlier, when I always had this problem in my right shoulder. It's a very stiff one. With this right shoulder, I always had this feeling that how am I going to be a yoga teacher when I can't do very complicated things, or I can't demonstrate things which involve my right shoulder. And that feeling always used to seep in, that how do I make it happen, that that doesn't, if you are the owner of a boutique, then you really have to reflect that sense of dressing, that sense of styling, if you really want people to adore your collection. But then came the feeling that I am also a being who is into the practice. What allows me to be, or be able, or to be able to teach or orient others, is my willingness to devote my time and my life into the subject completely. It's not about a physical posture, it's not about demonstrating, it's about carrying that knowledge, that wisdom to people who need it and which should be spreaded. From there on, I stopped being crude with myself, and I started respecting my own limits. And also, that helped me enjoy the skin that I have, enjoy the things that I can do or that I cannot do, because the definition itself became much, much, much wider. Then often in the practice we see that, that always keep smiling. Whenever you feel a bit of more pain, just smile. And that really works. That when I left my corporate job for another 2.5 years, I still used to remain very stressed, because that habit of carrying of the stress was so deeply infused that it did not go away. I always felt that it's very important to stay stressed. It's very important to look serious. Then only people will understand that, you're doing something important, or you're doing something worthwhile. It took me time to shed off that stress, and it happened with a simple smile. So my daughter used to complain that you don't smile. You were much better when you were at job, because when you used to come back from office, you still knew that you will have some allocated hours for me and you will smile, you'll play with me. But now you are at home, and throughout 24 hours, I see you in a different. I see you sad. I see you stressed, and these kind of things. My practice really helped me open up this gateway of smile, and now it has really changed. Then came the change of perspective with other beings. Earlier, whenever I used to see someone who is like very, who is not compassionate, or might be not being humble, or being very rude or very crude, I used to label that person, that, I used to label. That labeling has gone away now, because I try and see people as divine beings. So might be the cover might be something else, but the core inside each one of us is one and the same. So I have I try and look beyond the cover now. I do not try and label people now. And that's one biggest thing that I carry, how I carry the practice of yoga of the mat. Then I've always believed in one thing, that whatever is around us, it is a reflection of within. So our present reality is what we are within right now. So if I have to change this reality, I have to change the reality within. If that reality within changes, the something else will reflect outside, and that's how I can change the reality which is outside. Now, this is something that I've been practicing. So you would experience this, that whenever you might be a practitioner of any number of years, but a day on which you are really stressed, or you've had an argument, or you're upset with something, and you try and practice a simple asana, say vrikshasana, on in which you are very comfortable, or a tree pose in which you are very comfortable to get into the posture. The day we are not mentally balanced, or we have had something going on over here, we will not be able to achieve that simple asana also. We will tumble down. Now, what do we do to change that thing? How do we change that reality, that we don't have to get disbalanced with a small incident in life? You practice vrikshasana more and more, more and more, more and more, so that you ground yourself more, you learn to balance more, and that starts reflecting in the real life. So earlier, my perspective of balancing asanas used to be that it just helps us to balance on one foot, on one leg, something like that, in which instead of two, we go with a one. And we learn to manage our body much better. But now my definition is something different. My definition says now that when we do those balancing asanas, we tend to take balanced decisions in life. We tend to not be too happy with something. We don't tend to be too sad with something. We take incidents as incidents, and we let time heal things. We let them just flow by, and allow that space and time to any incident, and just get off your body for some time and look at things from outside instead of identifying yourself with just the skin and the skull that you've been provided. When I used to be a very, very angry person, and with a soft voice, that anger used to sound very funny. And my bosses used to say that, you are trying to be angry, but still, the kind of voice you have, you are unable to convey that message. And I used to shiver when I used to be angry. Much later, after a couple of years of a bit of practice, I would say that if one can be really dedicated towards the practice, these changes come very fast. After I started practicing dedicatedly with a lot of discipline, I realized that my anger has gone away. And whenever I do something or I am being angry at something, I am much more aware of my feelings. And I'm much more aware of the fact that this is something, this anger is not going to spoil any, is it's not going to create any harm for anyone. It's going to harm me the most. And with that feeling, I have started letting things go. I have developed a feeling of surrender, that whatever it is, the feeling of surrender helps me let someone bigger, a bigger power take care and handhold these problems instead of me trying to solve and correct everything. So, with these practices, now this is how the practice of yoga really helped me off the mat. When I try and get into something, any posture which I'm not comfortable at, I perceive it as something that this is helping me get out of the comfort zone. So there are things which I do in a comfort zone. There are things. Okay, I would like to stop this presentation. All right, so I'll be able to see everyone better. Yeah. So this really helped me start considering things in a from a different perspective altogether. And instead of blaming the outside situations or outside people, I started turning more and more inwards. And when in the practice, we close our eyes, we try and connect, that really helps, that really helps one feel that life is much more beyond than what we are always perceiving from outside or what we are looking at. There is a much deeper world, a bigger universe which is inside. It is just that we have to try and start communicating and diving within ourselves. uh, off lately, when I practice, when my practitioners come and we practice together, there are days I now try and change the practice and give practices to people as per what they are going through. So anyone who is very anxious or going through anxiety, for that person, I do not give any practices which would help them reduce weight or which would help them become more dynamic. I would give them practices which would help them balance, which would help them calm down. Because once that balance is taken care of, then automatically whatever we are trying to achieve, that will fall in place, that will come into place. So these are my perspectives of yoga off the mat. And I would like to hear from all of you that what is it that, how do you practice yoga off the mat? Earlier, I used to complain a lot about traffic, but now I be thankful that at least, if I am looking at the traffic, which means I'm alive. And if I am in a big city, that's another thing that traffic reminds me. And I am moving, I am being able to be on the road and do something That's another thing about the traffic. So yeah, so that's how things have changed for me. So yeah, if anyone would like to share that, what does yoga off the mat mean to you?
Thank you, Ruchi ma'am. Thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts, your scattered thoughts, as you said, but you compiled them for us and shared with us honestly. Thank you so much. I'm sure uh, all of us would be able to relate to those thoughts and experiences. I'm very sure. Very valuable and inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Participants, if anyone has a question or someone wants to share something, please go ahead.
So, all right, I'll share an instance from my today's visit to the school. So, these were all girls, 12th graders, and I asked them that is there anything that you're really scared of? So, yes, they were scared of their exams because it's round the corner and their board exams. So, they were like, yes, we are very scared that the time might run out and we'll not be able to complete the exam. We are scared that there would be questions that we are not aware of, that how to answer them, and things like that. So, on that note, we practiced Ujjayi breathing, and we practiced the Simha Kriya. And they asked that, how will this help us? So I gave them a small instance that, have you seen who is the king of the jungle? It's a lion. Have you seen an elephant? It's like much bigger. It's a much giant form of an animal if you compare it with the lion. Or have you seen a camel? It is much taller, can get the leaves much easily, can get its fodder much easily. Still, why is the lion the king of the jungle? So they were like, because it can roar very well, it has a very strong voice, might be that's why. So we came upon that it's just the attitude, because the attitude is such that nothing matters, whatever kind of body it's been blessed with, it has that attitude that come what may, bring it on to me and I will take care of it. And when we are practicing the kriya, or that breath, where the lion's breath, we are actually pushing out each and every fear out of our body. So just conceal your fears one by one. We'll practice it 5 years. So 5 years for now. Conceal your 5 years, and with every breath, we are going to chuck out that fear from our being, and we will let it out in the universe, and we will let the universe handle our fears. So that was a small way of infusion into the into the minds of these girls, that this is how we can remove our fears, and how, when we connect with the earth, when we practice and we connect with the earth, we are actually transferring all our negative energies into the earth, and we are getting a positive charge from the earth. And that's what our elders also used to do. As first thing in the morning, they used to touch and bow down on the earth, and then place those hands on the eyes, with a perception of receiving those positive energies and starting your day on that note. So these simple practices of transferring your energies, and assuming and believing that surrender is the way of living, where you let higher powers handle you. You keep on doing your work and let the higher powers handle you and show you the path. You just keep on seeking the path. So yeah, these practices, when I was doing it with them, I could see that the kind of happiness and smiles they had. So I could see a bit of change in the attitude towards their exams, which I hope that it helps them these practices and all. Yeah.
Thanks, ma'am. Uh, Eva, it seemed you were speaking something before, was it? You were on mute.
No, I wasn't. I think it was by accident. But yes, but so I will take my chance to congratulate Ruchi for that beautiful talk, which I can really much relate to my own experience, and I'm ever so grateful for your share, Ruchi.
Thank you.
Dr. Bijlani, would you like to share your thoughts, please?
Let me first congratulate Ruchi on sharing her personal experience and illustrating everything that she talked about through her own practice and experience, including the very recent visit to the school. Uh,
Thank you, sir.
a few comments uh, about yogic practices versus other types of comparable exercises like, say, jogging, cycling, swimming, etc., or walking. Uh, it's basically, as you said, the attitude that matters, the goal that we have in mind that matters. In yoga, it's union with the divine, which of course sounds a little too esoteric, but a simpler way to put it is that there is a purpose for which we are here in the world. There's a task assigned to us for which we have been equipped. And to be able to do that, our material base, the body, and of course also our subtle base, the mind, they should be in good shape. So it is to keep our equipment in good shape so that we can fulfill the divine will, the purpose for which we are here. So that's why uh, that's the attitude in yoga. But then one can have the same attitude also to jogging, cycling, and swimming. So if one does those things with the same attitude, that
Yeah.
also becomes yoga. On the other hand, if yogic practices are done just as a set of physical practices with the aim of at the most staying healthy and feeling that wanting to be healthy does not require any further justification or reasoning, then yogic practices also remain just physical exercises. So it's the attitude that makes the difference. Another thing that you mentioned about someone saying that, will I be able to do it? Because I can't do the type of postures which I see in pictures, etc. Now, this is again a common misunderstanding because we don't stress uh, the sort of the person exceeds the limits.
Right.
So everybody's capacity is different, and in fact, we do it slowly and consciously for this very reason that when you feel that you are reaching your limit, you'll know it a little in advance that if I go still further, I might injure myself. So that is the point at which one should not only stop but step back a little bit so that you're holding it in a position in which you are comfortable, there's no chance of injury, and you can be stable. Because that's one of the principles, no sthir sukhasanam, that is, you should be steady and comfortable. So if you overdo, one can not only injure, not only be uncomfortable, but also one will be wobbly, not stable. So all that has to be avoided. Then, you the point that what is the age of stress? Is it only after 40, or can there be stress at a much earlier age? Srividya is here and she knows how much stress young people can have when they're trying to choose a career, and how that has increased because very often the young people these days want to have a career which is aligned with their passions, and sometimes they also want a career that combines making a living with living a life which is meaningful, life which has a purpose. So uh, that creates a lot of stress because very often the parents don't understand this type of a language when it comes to career choice. Not only that, children even much younger who are not at the stage of choosing a career, they can also have other types of stress due to peer pressure, due to bullying, and because of uh, comparing themselves with others in the class who might be doing better in studies, or who might be doing better in sports, or who might be uh, uh, having more material objects at their disposal. So all that can also be a source of stress in very young children. The only difference perhaps is that adults have a tendency to carry their stress along with them. They carry that baggage rather too long. Children, the younger they are, the more easy they find it to forget about what caused them stress. They can overcome it and then move on. That's much easier for them when they're very young. Then you have you said that now you rarely get angry, if at all, and even if you do, you are very aware of your feelings. You do it with, you are fully aware of what is happening, and that's a great victory, because overcoming anger is not easy. That's one of the most difficult things to do. Now what I'll do is just play what people do at my age, play a tape recorder sort of, uh, when a person is asked, I mean, like me, is asked, what is yoga off the mat? Which means, what is it that you do besides the asanas during the rest of the day, which can also be called yoga? Then this is something for which I have a brief and polished answer, which I would keep repeating all again and again. So that's like playing a tape recorder. Firstly, I mean, it should influence all the work that we do. And the work that we do can remain the same, the work that we normally do otherwise, but it can be done with a different attitude, which means that we do it as an instrument of the divine. We do it out of a sense of gratitude to the divine for having given us the abilities and the circumstances to do that work. And we do that work without being attached to the outcome. We may expect a certain outcome, but even if the outcome is entirely just the opposite, we are quite prepared for it. We accept that also with equal delight, taking it as a part of the divine will. So that is the attitude with which we do our work. Then the second thing is making choices, whether it is in the course of our work or otherwise. Every day in life, we have many small choices to make. And very often, we also have some major choices to make. So whether the choices are small or big, in general, they can be made at three levels: at the level of the feelings, at the levels of reasoning, the reasoning intellect, or at the level of our inner voice, which emanates from our soul. Now, it's not essential that there has to be a conflict between the three, but when there is a conflict, then it is the voice of the soul that we should be listening, because that is also a part of the practice of yoga off the mat. Not just because we are committed to practicing yoga on the mat and off the mat, but it is that choice which also uh, leaves us in lasting mental peace. So that is one of the most important criteria for us to make out which out of the different voices that I'm hearing is the voice of the soul. And all we have to do is ask ourselves one simple question and answer it with total honesty. Which is the choice that will leave me in lasting mental peace? So that is the choice which is coming from the soul. And if we can have the courage to do it, then we know that in the long run, it will be good, even if immediately it involves losing an object or losing time or going through some hardship. So it may involve some of these things, because the choices coming from the soul are an expression of love for others, as you said, because of our realizing or sensing a sense of oneness with others. So if we have that sense of oneness, we also would be willing to express our love by giving what we have to others. And giving means, in concrete terms, losing something. And that's why the intellect may sometimes oppose those type of choices, because the intellect has a tendency to calculate. But uh, we find that that giving does not feel like giving, because you have sensed oneness with the other individual, and therefore the distinction between my need versus somebody else's need, that disappears. Instead, you just look at which need is more important. And therefore, you give happily, and you find that that's what leaves us in lasting mental peace. Then the third thing is how we handle ups and downs of life, because that is something which we are not spared, uh, just because we are not spared from it, just because we are doing the work with the right attitude and making the right choices. Still, one could have all types of ups and downs in life. Both so-called fortune and misfortune are opportunities for fulfilling the purpose of life. And that happens because we are able to accept the so-called fortune with gratitude, and whatever we have received in excess as a result of that fortune, we are willing to share. And on the other hand, we are able to handle so-called misfortune, again, with a sense of gratitude, because we experienced it because we needed it, firstly. Secondly, it also makes us realize our own limitations and turn to a higher power which can bring us out of that difficulty. So we don't feel helpless, but at the same time, we turn to that higher power, and the higher power may work through many instruments. So we find that human instruments materialize who may help us, and that again enhances that sense of oneness. So we move towards that sense of oneness, which means we grow in our consciousness. Our consciousness widens to include others, and include others with a sense of love and gratitude, because we realize that when we're going through that difficult phase, others came to my rescue, they helped me out. They may be working as instruments of the divine, but all the same, they did it. And therefore, next time we are also likely to be more helpful. So that's how we change as a result of misfortune. So both good fortune and misfortune are opportunities. So if we put all these three things together, the work that we do, the choices that we make, and the ups and downs in life that we experience, how to handle them, we find that all of life is covered. What else is there in life? Which means that if we spend 1 hour on the mat, during the remaining 23 hours, we are hardly going to experience anything other than these three things. And that's what makes yoga a 24-hour yoga. And that is what integral yoga is. All life is yoga, as Sri Aurobindo says, which means all life gives us an opportunity for the practice of yoga. So the 1 hour that we spend on the mat is just to keep the equipment in good shape, and the remaining 23 hours are to put that equipment into practice, following the type of guidance that we have available in yoga. And the guidance is broadly about these three things: the work that we do, the choices that we make, and how we face ups and downs of life. And that covers all of life. So that's what makes all life an opportunity or a field for the practice of yoga, and that is all off the mat.
Thank you. It is beautiful summary.
Thank you, Rishikeshji.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your really valuable, deep insights. Thanks a lot.
Playing the tape recorder yet once more.
No, sir. We really need to hear this again and again, of course, anytime. Ruchi ma'am, thanks again for sharing your valuable time with us. I thank
Thank
the
you so much.
participants as well
Thank you,
for being with us today. We can close today's session with a moment of peaceful silence. Namaste.